Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really critical decision for schools and universities. How do you choose the right technology for remote exams? Because, with online learning being so central now, getting this right is more important than ever.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. And first, we need to understand just how high the stakes really are. This isn't just about picking some new software. This decision affects pretty much everyone at the institution. I mean, look at this. Get it right, and you're setting yourself up for success. Happy students, efficient faculty, everything running smoothly. But if you get it wrong, well, you're looking at a whole lot of student backlash, technical meltdowns, and a ton of wasted money. The ripple effects here are just huge.
So how do the smart institutions make the right call? Well, they definitely don't just throw a dart at a board. They evaluate every potential solution against a really clear, well-thought-out set of criteria. It's all about making sure every single base is covered.
And really, it all boils down to these 7 essential pillars. This is the framework that helps you balance that tricky line between academic integrity on one side and student trust and privacy on the other. Let's break them down.
So the first two are all about trust. On the one hand, you've got security and integrity, right? That's the whole reason for these systems. But on the other hand, you have the student experience and their privacy. Because if the system feels invasive or is just a pain to use, you completely lose student trust. And then what's the point? It's a really delicate balance.
All right, next up, we have to talk about efficiency. The solution has to be practical. It's got to improve faculty and admin efficiency, not just add more work to their already full plates. And you got to remember, you're not just buying software, you're starting a partnership with a vendor. You need to be absolutely sure they're going to be there to support you when things get tough.
And finally, these last 3 pillars are the technical foundation. First, technical integration. This thing has to play nice with the systems you already have. Second, you have to understand the total cost of ownership to avoid any nasty budget surprises down the road. And last, but certainly not least, compliance and data privacy. That's just non-negotiable. Getting that wrong is simply not an option.
Now, even if you find the perfect solution on paper, the real world is always going to throw you some curveballs. A successful rollout means thinking ahead and getting ready to overcome some very common hurdles.
One of the biggest hurdles you'll face is student resistance, and this usually comes from some very legitimate fears. Students are worried about how their data is being used, what's being monitored, and whether the system is even fair to begin with. So the fix here? It's all about transparency. You have to be upfront, clearly explain how it works and why you're using it, giving them practice exams and super clear privacy policies. That helps demystify the whole thing and lets them get comfortable before a big, high-stakes exam. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got your faculty. Getting them on board can be a huge challenge, especially if they see this new tech as just another burden, one more system to learn, or if they're just plain skeptical about trusting an algorithm. The crucial thing here is to prove its value. You have to show them the actual numbers, the concrete time savings. Give them a real voice in the process by getting them involved in pilot testing. And most importantly, you have to make sure they feel totally supported with fantastic training.
Okay, so how do you actually do all this without getting totally overwhelmed? Well, let's walk through a recommended approach that turns this super complex evaluation into a manageable step-by-step process.
The best way to do this is with a structured 5-phase process. You start by defining your requirements with everyone involved. Then you research your vendors. That leads to a deep evaluation of your top choices, followed by and this is critical, a pilot test with real students. And only then, with all that data, do you move to a full implementation. It ensures your decision is driven by real evidence, not just a slick sales pitch.
Now let's zoom in on pilot testing for a second, because this is without a doubt the single most important step. This is the moment of truth. A pilot test lets you de-risk the whole decision because you get to see how the solution actually performs in your environment, with your students and your faculty, not just how it looks in a perfectly polished demo.
So when you pull this all together, you start to realize this whole process isn't just about buying a piece of software. The real goal, the #1 priority, is finding and maintaining that critical balance between academic integrity and student trust. So what's the takeaway? Choosing the right solution means you have to look way beyond just the security features. You have to think about the full impact on your students, on your faculty, and on your institution's long-term goals for what it wants to become.
And that leaves us with this central question, the one that every single school and university has to answer as they try to navigate the future of learning. It's the tightrope they all have to walk.